Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty huge, a story that really changes the game for big tech, government, and, well, free speech online.
Yeah, we're diving into Google, specifically YouTube, and this official admission they made to the U.S. Congress. Basically, they confirmed they engaged in political censorship. It's kind of a bombshell.
It really is. And this isn't just some leak, right? This is formal.
Exactly. It's an official statement of fact. Fox News got hold of it thanks to Chairman Jim Jordan's committee pushing for answers. This is Google on the record saying the Biden administration pressured them to take down content.
Content that, crucially, didn't even violate YouTube's own policies at the time.
That's the kicker. It wasn't about breaking rules. It was about pressure.
And for you listening, this is way more than just politics. This hits everything: how creators make a living, what news you see, how ads work, even, and this is fascinating, how AI is being developed.
Steph, when a platform this dominant admits something like this, it sends ripples everywhere. It touches free expression, algorithms, the whole digital landscape.
So our sources today are mainly transcripts and reporting around that official statement of facts, the ones submitted because of those congressional.
Right. And our mission here is to really unpack. We need to go beyond the headlines, look at the 5 specific things Google admitted, figure out what this reversal actually means for creators getting unbanned, and try to understand why they're doing this now. What are the real drivers?
Okay, let's start there. This admission wasn't exactly voluntary. It came after a lot of pressure, subpoenas from the House Judiciary Committee going back to February 2023.
And a follow-up in March 2025. Yeah, this was dragged out of them, essentially. It's a formal, legally significant document.
So not just a quick sorry. This has...
Absolutely. Submitting a statement of facts like this to Congress under subpoena, that's serious business. It changes their legal position, and frankly, it validates what so many independent creators have been saying for years.
Okay, so let's break down these 5 big... The first 2 seem really connect. Number 1, the Biden administration pressured Google to censor America.
And remove content that, again, didn't violate YouTube's guidelines.
And then admission 2. Google itself calls that pressure unacceptable and wrong. Their words.
Right. That's the core of it. They're admitting they caved to pressure that went beyond enforcing their own rules. It was about taking down lawful speech because it was politically inconvenient for the administration.
Calling it unacceptable and wrong is a strong statement, but does it feel a bit late?
Well, yeah. It suggests they knew it was wrong, maybe at the time, maybe in hindsight, but they did it anyway. And it signals they realized they compromised their position as a supposedly neutral platform.
But here's a question that jumps out, and maybe you're thinking this too. If it was unacceptable and wrong, where's the compensation for the creators who lost everything?
Exactly. The sources mentioned YouTube is offering people a chance to come back, but what about the lost income? People like Doug Tenable talking about millions.
Millions lost. So the admission feels a bit hollow, like we admit it was wrong, but you're not getting that money back.
It really does. It points towards this being driven more by legal needs or future business strategy than, say, genuine regret for the harm caused.
Which maybe leads into admission number 3. This one sounds a bit philosophical. They said public debate shouldn't suffer because of reliance on authorities.
Yeah, that one's interesting, almost paradoxical given their history.
Right. Because during COVID, wasn't their whole justification based on relying on authorities like the CDC and WHO to define misinformation?
Precisely. They leaned heavily on those official sources to decide what got taken down. So this new statement is a complete pivot.
How do we make sense of that?
Well, the sources suggest it's an admission that their past reliance was flawed, that it let government agencies, which can be politicized themselves, effectively control content policy through the back door. By saying debate shouldn't suffer from that reliance now, they're kind of admitting it did suffer before.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. It's a course correction, at least rhetorically.
It seems like. And it connects to admission number 4, which is a big practice. They're committing to stop using third-party fact-checkers in the same way.
Ah, the fact-checker. Explain their role in this whole system. How did they work?
They were key to the, let's call it, hard censorship machine. These outside groups, often with their own political leanings or funding sources, would flag content.
And that flag triggered action from...
Right. It could lead to strikes, demonetization, or even channel. It essentially outsourced the judgment call on controversial content. Removing them centralizes that decision back within Google.
So fewer outside groups driving the censorship bus, theoretically.
That seems to be the idea. Limit the influence of external activist groups who could game the system to get content removed.
But as point out, this doesn't mean all forms of guidance are gone. They mention things like if you talk about sensitive topic, minority, or abortion.
You still might see those little context boxes pop up below the video, often linking to Wikipedia or some other authoritative source.
So the hard ban might be easing, But the soft nudge, the sort of contextual steering is still there.
Exactly. It's not outright removal, but it signals to viewers and advertisers, hey, this content here is maybe a bit fringe or unreliable. It's control through context, a kind of soft censorship.
Okay. And the last one, admission 5, looked outward towards Europe.
Yeah, they specifically called out Europe's digital regulation, like the Digital Services Act. They warned these laws are targeting U.S. companies and forcing them to remove content that's actually legal under U.S. law.
So they're basically saying we're getting squeezed from both sides. Pressure at home, stricter rules abroad.
Pretty much. It serves as context for their overall situation and maybe a bit of lobbying too. They're highlighting the global pressures that could restrict what they can host even further, which impacts their business model worldwide.
So you add up these 5 admissions. What's the actual result for creators who were banned?
The big result is this massive amnesty program. YouTube is officially saying, if you are terminated primarily for political speech violations, especially around COVID-19 or election integrity, you can appeal to come back.
Because those specific community guidelines are gone now.
Correct. The rules about election integrity that ran through 2023 and the COVID-19 content rules through 2024, they're explicitly no longer in effect.
So if your channel got nuked just for saying masks don't work or questioning the 2020 result, the door's open again.
Officially, yes. That seems to be the message, a path back for those specific kinds of policy violence.
Now, it's important to remember, as the sources stress, this wasn't just happening at Google. This kind of pressure, it was across the board, right?
Oh, absolutely. This fits into a much larger pattern involving other big tech companies and the government. It wasn't an isolated Google issue.
We heard Mark Zuckerberg admit it pretty bluntly, didn't we, about the Biden administration calling Facebook and basically screaming at them to censor people.
Yeah, that was quite the revelation. Direct, aggressive pressure. And Meta, Facebook's parent company, formally admitted in August 2024 that they faced this pressure to censor America.
And we know they acted on it. The Hunter Biden laptop story being throttled before the election is probably the most famous example.
A huge example of narrative control, yes. And then you have X, formerly Twitter. After Elon Musk took over, there was that whole wave of reinstatements.
Right, bringing back lots of controversial figures, many from the right who had been permanent McInnes, Anopoulos.
Even Alex Jones eventually.
Yeah.
The sources definitely draw a parallel, suggesting Google is sort of following the path X already took, possibly out of necessity.
Okay, let's zoom back in on the YouTube channel specifically mentioned in the source material. Who got hit by these bans? It seems like a pretty diverse group.
It really was. You had channels focused on outright conspiracy theories, like Patriot Soapbox. They got banned back in 2020.
They were pushing QAnon stuff, right? The whole Trump versus satanic elites narrative.
Exactly. That kind of high-volume conspiracy content was a major target in the 2020 purges, framed as a public safety issue.
Then there were the COVID-related bans. That seemed to affect a lot of people.
A huge number. LifeSite News is one example, banned in February 2021. Their content was flagged for being anti-vaccine and downplaying the severity of COVID.
Basically contradicting the official public health narrative coming from government.
Pretty much. And then you had temporary suspensions, too, like for Dan Bongino in early 2022.
What was his offense again? Something about masks?
Yeah, the sources say it was for questioning the effectiveness of cloth masks. He's one of the big names expected to return now that the COVID guidelines.
And the story of Doug Tenafel is quite telling, too. What got him banned?
According to the sources, it was a combination questioning the 2020 election results and sharing a personal story about his father allegedly developing blood clots after a Moderna shot.
Wow, so specific claims like that, even personal anecdotes, if they contradicted the narrative, could trigger a ban?
It shows how granular the enforcement could, not just general dissent, but specific points of disagreement on elections or health outcomes.
The sources also mention other controversial figures, like Stefan Molyneux.
Right, banned in 2020 for content promoting racism, sexism, anti-Semitism. His follow-up channel got terminated later, too.
And even younger creators like Sophie, who started doing political videos as a kid.
Her backup channel was reportedly shut down in 2022. It suggests the net was cast pretty wide, hitting various types of creators expressing non-mainstream or controversial.
And we have to keep coming back to the impact. It wasn't just losing a voice, it was losing a business.
Absolutely critical point. Doug Tenable's estimate again, millions of lost income. He talked about how his channel growth was completely stalled. Instead of potentially hitting over 1 million subs, he stuck around 600K.
So when we talk censorship, for these independent creators, it's financial ruin. It's career destruction.
That's the reality the sources highlight. And while the reversal offers a chance to rebuild, that lost time, that lost income, it's just gone.
Which really underscores the power imbalance, doesn't it? The platform admits a mistake years later, but takes no financial responsibility for the damage done in the meantime. time.
Precisely. It reinforces that feeling of asymmetry that comes through strongly in the source material.
Okay, let's shift to another major theme in the source. This feeling among creators of, well, blatant double standards, hypocrisy in how the rules were applied.
Yes, this is a huge point of contention. The core argument from the creators who were censored is that enforcement was deeply politicized and inconsistent.
What's the specific claim? How was it unequal?
The view reported in the sources is that certain figures, often perceived as being on the political left, commentators like Destiny or Hassan are sometimes named, could say things that seem to border on or even call for political violence.
And face few, if any, serious consequences. No bans, no major suspension.
That's the assertion. While on the other hand, simply asking questions about vaccines or mask efficacy or election result, nonviolent speech led directly to deplatforming, permanent ban.
So the argument is the rules existed, but they were only really enforced against one side or against specific types of dissent.
That's the perception, yes. That perceived immunity for some versus the swift hammer falling on others for less inflammatory, though perhaps controversial, speech is presented as proof that the policies weren't neutral guidelines, but politically motivated weapons.
And this feeling was apparently really highlighted by the recent Jimmy Kimmel.
Exactly. The source material points to that as a stark contrast. When Kimmel faced potential issues, suspension talk, affiliate pushback, reportedly over refusing to apologize for something controversial, he said.
The reaction was instant and massive, right? Hollywood, media outlets, everyone screaming about free speech.
A huge, immediate outcry, defending his right to speak, questioning the censorship.
And the contrast the sources draw.
That this massive defense of a mainstream celebrity was completely missing, when dozens, maybe hundreds, of independent creators, often conservative or dissenting voices, were being wiped off the platform over the preceding years.
They call it McCarthyism in the sources, don't they? And claim it was ignored or even cheered on by the same people now defending Kimmel.
Yes, that's the language used. The argument is that the outrage over potential censorship is select.
It highlights this idea that maybe, for some, free speech is conditional. It depends on who is speaking.
And the conclusion drawn in the source material is pretty blunt. You only care about it now because you think it's going to impact. The implication is that the concern is self-serving, only activated when their own side feels threatened.
Now, we have to be clear, we're reporting this viewpoint from the sources, not endorsed, but it explains the sense of vindication many censored creators feel now.
Right. For them, Google's admission is proof that their long-held belief that the rules were applied unfairly, shaped by political pressure, and used to silence, especially during crunch times like 2020 or the pandemic, was actually correct. There's a sense of moral injury there, too.
Seeing their channels deleted for asking questions that are now arguably more accepted topics.
Exactly. And they feel Google's own statement now provides the evidence that their claims of unequal treatment were valid all along.
Which brings us back to the big why now. If not out of pure goodwill, why reverse course so dramatic? The sources point to two main theories, both pretty grounded in corporate reality.
Right. Altruism is rarely the answer, and it usually comes down to business drive. Theory one is the simple money.
The money mode. How does that work here?
It starts with Google's own admission that conservative creators have extensive reach and play an important role. In platform terms, that translates directly to money. They bring in eyeballs, valuable eyeballs.
And why are those eyeballs considered so valuable, according to the sources?
The analysis digs into demographics. The suggestion is that audiences for conservative or right-leaning content often include people with stable jobs, small business owners, folks described as capitalists with disposable income.
The kind of people advertisers want to...
Precisely. This is the coveted demographic. They buy things. They respond to ads for established products and services. According to the sources, they're seen as much more valuable to advertisers than, say, and this is quoting the blunt language used, broke-ass activists who hate capitalism.
Ooh, that's direct.
It is, but it reflects the cold, hard business calculation reported in the sources. If you alienate a demographic that advertisers pay a premium to reach, you're leaving money on the table.
So the censorship policy eventually became too costly. Losing that revenue stream hurt the bottom line.
That's the argument. The reversal isn't about principle. It's about profit. Google wants those creators and their audiences back because, as one source put it, we make a shit ton more money on them. It's just good business to reopen that tap.
Okay, that's theory one. Follow the money. What's theory two? This one sounds more futuristic.
Theory two is the AI training motive. This is a running theory that's gaining a lot of traction.
And the idea is?
The idea is that this reversal, this sudden influx of previously banned, uncensored content, isn't primarily about free speech for humans. It's about feeding the beast, artificial intelligence.
How so? How does allowing controversial COVID or election talk help train Google's AI? like Gemini.
Think about what you need to build a really good large language LLM. You need data, massive amounts of diverse, realistic human conversation, including the messy parts, the disagreements, the controversial stuff.
Because if you only train it on sanitized, approved text,
You get a boring, overly cautious AI that can't handle nuance, refuses to discuss sensitive topics, or just parrots the official line. Users complain about that AI that feels lobotomized or biased.
So to make Gemini or Meta's AI or Grok at X more capable, more human-like, maybe more useful, they need the raw stuff, the argument sent.
Exactly. They need the platform to reflect actual public discourse, warts and all. By letting all this previously forbidden content back, Google isn't just placating creators, it's creating a much richer, larger, more diverse data set to train Gemini.
They're turning the platform back into a better data farm for their AI development.
That's the theory. And it got a big boost from reports that Elon Musk basically admitted he bought X, partly because he wanted a wealth of data to be able to train on.
Twitter X is a giant data fire hose for Grok?
Precisely. It's a treasure trove of real-time, unstructured, often controversial human interaction. Perfect training fuel. Google and Meta have the same fundamental need for that kind of data for their own AI ambition.
So the free speech win might just be a side effect of a bigger tech imperative.
It could be. The implication is fascinating. Our speech, our debates, however heated or out there, are now valuable not just for ad revenue, but as raw material for building the next generation of AI. We're feeding the machines, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, so the hard bans, the outright deletions, seem to be mostly ending, driven by money and maybe AI need. But does that mean the censorship is...
Not according to the sources, not by a long shot. The consensus is that the fight hasn't ended. It's just shifted tactic. The threat has become more subtle, more insidious.
And first, we should acknowledge, the reversal isn't even 100% complete, right? Some people are still being denied reinstatement.
That's right. The sources mention an author, John Douglas, who was denied re-entry even under the new policy, apparently without a clear reason. So the platform still holds that ultimate power to say no, sometimes arbitrarily.
But for most people, the issue isn't the hard ban anymore. It's this idea of
freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. That's the cynical mantra reportedly floating around inside these companies. You can say it, sure, but we control who hears.
Let's talk about that soft censorship, the algorithmic kind. How does that work in practice? It apparently ramped up around 2019.
Yeah, that's when YouTube really started moving away from just promoting what was organically popular, what people were watching most.
And shifted towards prioritizing what?
Authoritative news sources. Think legacy media. MSNBC, CNN, Fox News got boosted in search results and recommendations, often above independent creators discussing the same topics.
I do that.
The sources suggest two reasons: keeping corporate media partners happy and also steering viewers away from potentially unpredictable or problematic independent voice. It was about controlling the narrative flow, kneecapping organic growth for channels that didn't fit the mold.
And the tools for doing this now are much more sophisticated than just keyword blocking. It's AI.
Oh, absolutely. The AI looks at everything. Transcript content, comments, sentiment, viewer watch time patterns. It can categorize content based on topic, tone, potential risks.
So if people tend to click away when a certain
the AI learns the topic correlates with lower engagement or negative user experience and quietly limits its promotion. It doesn't ban the video, it just turns down the volume on its reach. It happens invisibly to the creator and the audience.
And the results can be devastating for creators, even if they're gaining subscribers.
We heard that example. A creator doubling subscribers, say 30K, but their live stream views cratering from 300 down to 70.
How is that even possible with 60,000 followers?
Algorithmic suppression. The AI is deliberately preventing notifications from going out, not showing the stream in feeds, limiting its discoverability. It ensures the content stays contained, doesn't spread organically.
And this isn't just YouTube.
No, the sources say it's the same story on Facebook, on X. Creators complain their posts reach the same two people, never getting traction, even with thousands of followers. The AI categorizes and contains content that challenges certain narrative, whether political or cultural.
What makes this soft censorship so difficult to fight?
It's invisibility. A hard ban is obvious. You're gone. People can see it, protest it. But how do you rally support against being silently deboosted? How do you prove your reach is being slashed by an algorithm you can't even see?
It's almost impossible to mobilize against.
Exactly, which is why you see so many creators pushing their audiences to platforms outside the main social media giants.
Newsletters, Substack, Discord, places where the algorithm doesn't control the connection.
Right. They're presented not just as backups, but as essential lifelines for direct communication, completely bypassing the AI gatekeepers who control reach on the big platforms.
So the underlying belief here, from the creator's perspective is that the platforms haven't really changed their tune on controversial speech.
The belief is they've just swapped the sledgehammer of the ban for the scalpel, the algorithm. They let you speak, maybe, but they ensure only the right and people hear you, protecting their revenue and narrative control without the bad PR of overt censorship.
All right, let's try to wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground today. Started with this really significant admission from Google, YouTube to Congress.
Yeah, confirming they buckled under political pressure from the Biden administration to censor content, validating what many suspected for years.
Then we look at the likely reasons for this big policy reversal.
Driven, it seems, not by a sudden love for free speech, but by two main factors: needing to win back valuable conservative audiences for advertisers.
The money motive.
Right. And potentially an even bigger drive, the desperate need for more diverse, uncensored data to train their increasingly important AI model, like Gemini. The AI training motive, feed the machine. Exact. But the crucial takeaway, the place we end up, is that the fight for visibility online hasn't ended. It's just changed shape.
It's less about avoiding the outright ban now and more about navigating the soft censorship.
The algorithmic suppression of reach, that's the new battleground. The fight is now about amplification, not just being allowed to speak.
So the knowledge gained here is pretty stark. Big tech acts in its business interests, primarily ad revenue and AI development and policy shift to serve those interests.
And this ongoing algorithmic control, this freedom of speech, not freedom of reach, is arguably a trickier problem than the old hard bans because it's so hard to see, let alone fight.
Which leaves us with a final thought, really a question, listener. Given everything we've discussed, admitted manipulation, the ongoing algorithmic filtering, how can you be sure you're actually finding diverse dissenting voice or even just genuinely pop?
How do you know you're not just seeing what the AI program for profit and perhaps political safety wants you to?
It really forces you to think about your own media consumption. Maybe it underlines why those alternative channels the creators are pushing, the Substacks, the newsletters, the Discourse.
They offer a way to connect directly, bypassing the algorithm's filter, ensuring you get the full picture, not just the platform's preferred profitable slice of it.
Something definitely worth thinking about long after.